worship with me? There is but
one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God, the good, omnipotent.
My talk is done now. The song's done. So funny, today at the UCC church, Pastor Lisa was doing a talk on basically faith, what it means to have faith, and then the things that have happened here today, as if it was all planned for this talk, because those are all basically the topics. So the first thing I have to do is apologize for the little writing piece that I had Vera do explaining what I was going to talk about today, because I'm having a lot of issues with language to now use to describe things. And living in the present presents a lot of challenges for language, because typically the language that is used is not present tense and is not spirit-led. And so when I fall back on the old verbiage, it doesn't match the message that I want to convey. And so I know one of the last things I had said, because I just kind of blurted it out off the cuff and hadn't written it or looked at it really, was that this was going to be about enlightenment. And I don't like that word necessarily, even though it is a higher vibration, and it does certainly add more light, more peace, more joy to me. But I have a sense that some words, again, make a separation, because we live in a dualistic society, and therefore everything seems to be separate, and people seem to be better or lesser or further or this or that. And those comparisons, when you live in the moment and you love everyone and you're one with things, it's hard to describe it, because the separation always takes place when you go back to language. And so I want you all to know, and any people who listen or watch this on YouTube or whatever, that as far as I'm concerned, there really is no separation from me to you. And although I may be quote unquote further along on my path to spiritual awakening, everyone can do it, and we all in fact do it, but we do it for very short periods of time. And we seem to, because we believe that that's the norm, we just accept that as, oh, I walked in the woods and I felt one with nature and I felt so at peace, and it was a wonderful, blessed moment. And we stop there. It's like, oh, I'm grateful for that moment. No, you can continue that moment throughout your day. Take that present and carry it with you. It's a present to be present. Take that and choose to expand it, so that if you have something that makes you smile, that brings you joy, carry that feeling with you and those thoughts with you to the next moment, and see if you can turn that moment, even if it's something like, oh, it's too cold in this room, it's too cold. Stop focusing on cold, and focus on the fact that we're together in a room to celebrate oneness, to celebrate our God selves, and to feel the warmth of that. And if you just slightly change the focus, you'll be surprised at how the other thing just kind of drops away. I have to do that a lot in the summer, because I'm very heat sensitive, and for me to be in this room in the summer, is I'm thinking, oh, my asthma's gonna kick in and I'm just gonna be too hot and I'm gonna perspire and all. And I have to leave all that at the door, otherwise I would never hear anything that anybody's saying and never enjoy what's going on here. And I allow the music to speak to me and to carry me through those dog days of summer when I'd really rather be home in the air conditioning. So it's how we look at things in every moment. If we open ourselves up to receiving God, to receiving Spirit, Spirit will come. All you have to do is be open and ask. And seek and you shall find, ask and you shall receive. All of those quotes take on their meaning once you do it. They're kind of in your head and we can quote them and it's like blah, 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 blah. Once you start living it, everything comes alive. Everything is awake. And you get the big picture, the fullness of God, of creation. For those of you who are women, the pain of childbirth versus putting that baby in your arms after that baby is born and you look at that miracle of birth, miracle of life, and everything else drops away. That's how we can do it again. Otherwise we never would. It's God's trick. But it's that way, and it can be that way every moment. And pain no longer becomes something you have to endure and a drudgery. That's part of the fiction, part of the illusion that we have bought into. It's only something that gives us a sense of what we want and what we don't want. And we can use it to our advantage, and it no longer becomes bad. It takes on a whole new meaning. And you find that you have the power to recreate and to control so much without ever controlling. You give it up and you get back amazing gifts. Just Friday, my ex-husband passed away, and although we never should have lived together in the first place, mistake number one, I still loved him, and I love his sister, and she was going to have to go to the funeral alone, so I went, and it was a 2.5-hour drive and a big ordeal for me to get someone to drive me that far and hang around and drive me back. Anyway, I was feeling very kind of out of it, punky, the day before, trying to make some of those decisions. And I went into sort of a trance state that I now can go into, and just asked for guidance of what I was going to do. And I woke up in like 5 minutes and had completely let go of all those heavy feelings that I had. And not, only a few minutes before that, I was starting to feel anxiety because I was having all these feelings and felt like I shouldn't be having them anymore, and what was I going to do, and why was I feeling these things? And lo and behold, in a very few minutes, they were gone, and the sense of peace was back. And once I felt the peace, I said, I will do whatever it is that I'm destined to do, God. I'm giving this up. I'm not going to control it. If I'm destined to stay home and babysit my grandchildren, and be supportive in that role, that's where I will be. And if I should be going and supporting my sister-in-law, that's where I will be. 10 minutes later, the phone rang, and I had a ride, and my son had another babysitter for the kids, all in one shot.
Wow.
So it was clear that I was going. But I honestly when you get to that place, you can then be grateful for whatever outcome. If I had found out that I was staying home, well, that's what I was meant to do. And if it found, and in this case, it was determined that I was going, that certainly was what I was meant to do. Yesterday, my sister-in-law could hardly even stand up. She needed my help and my support for the whole time. So, but those are how you begin to look at the blessings. That life is fine, however it flows, and your presence is just to be aware of that and be part of that. And so things that don't always go your way, I guess they're not meant to. And if you can start accepting those things and live in your present and just keep trying it, just sort of not be desperate for it, because life is all about energy. So if you're desperate for something, you're pulling on it too much. If you're afraid of something or want to shut down to it because you don't want to think about it or face it, it's right there all the time because you're still focused on it. You're squashing it, you're sitting on it, you're worried that it's going to get loose and haunt you. Just practice being with things. And things that make you happy, remember what that is. If seeing somebody's face, the joy in a child or something, if you can recreate that when you close your eyes and see that child laughing or whatever it is, that flower blooming, that whatever it is that brings you peace and joy in a moment when you're stressed, bring it up. And take a minute to take a breath and step back and say, what do I really want in my life? Do I want this peace and joy, or do I want to be aggravated? Because that's what we're taught to be. In our society, we're taught to focus on the negative. We all know that when the news stories come up. How many positive news stories do we get to hear? Very few. But there are a tremendous amount of wonderful, positive things that go on in our world all around us. We just are not taught to appreciate them and focus on them, except for maybe when we're in church, and that's only a maybe. So it's a practice of being open, of being spirit-filled, of being present, of being joyful, and of having faith that you will have the abundance of joy, the abundance of spirit, the abundance of love that you will get when you start practicing that, and then you want it. And eventually, you're able to feel some of that energy flowing back and forth, and you will be healthier because more positive energy will flow into your body. You will be much more relaxed, so the stress will peel away. The other day, when I was in that trance state, I could feel all of it just falling away. And then the sense of peace when I opened my eyes was back, the sense of balance. And that balance, being one with things, is such an amazing feeling. It's just like, for me, it's just like floating in the ocean, just free floating. I know I can choose anything I want at that point. I'm free floating in the ocean on my back, chilling, looking at the beautiful sunshine and the beautiful world around me, listening to the sounds. At any point, I can roll over on my side, I can roll over on my belly, I can swim, I can dive, I can do anything I want, all in my control, because I've reached that point of freedom and balance. And then the whole world becomes accessible to you in a way that it never has before, or maybe it has for those glimpses. So the idea is to expand on those and not buy into what we're told, that we're only blessed to have them very infrequently in our lives. Those are the tales of duality that we've been told. And so the more it shifts from intellectual to the child experience, you have to have some heart-centered, because you have to have some feelings, but the main access is to be present like a child is, and to live your life in that state of almost bliss, and then it actually is. So, just briefly, some of the things I did to get to this state were to work on myself a lot, letting go of things, of beliefs that no longer were important in my life. Things that other people told me, things that I told myself, that no longer really meant anything to me. They did not serve me in my present. And then to reevaluate how I was behaving towards others, feelings that I was harboring, and even feelings about myself, because I'm very forgiving to others, but not forgiving at all to myself. I am very hard on myself. And I had to come to accept that I am one with me too. And if I can forgive everyone else, I have to be able to forgive myself. And then I became the I am. And there's me and myself who constantly argue with each other. Me and myself are the things in my head. The little me, and we argue a lot. In fact, I say I've elected to become schizophrenic now because I have major internal struggles with myself at all times, because am I in my ego? Am I not? Am I separate? Am I one? Am I behaving in a way that I want to? Am I using the correct language? But, you know, it's all a growing process. I'm still very new in this. I'm still learning all the time. But I have to tell you, it's an amazing ride. And from June till now, I have gotten so much better at it that it's almost on autopilot at this point. Whereas it was a lot of work in June and even early into July to continue to come back to spirit-filled from ego-centered. And it's a beautiful experience that I want to have every minute of my day. So when I'm not in it, I now feel that resistance of energy, that lack of positive energy, the heaviness. I can feel the weight of the energy blockage. I can sometimes feel the pain of it. And when I'm in the flow, most of that just lightens right up and goes away. So I wanted to open this up to really questions and answers rather than just talk the whole time. So feel free to call out anything you want to say, and I'll try to address it.
That's very helpful. Your insights, yes, it spoke to my heart and my challenges that I bring up for myself. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Merri. It reminds me of that one line that Rose wrote in our song last week. I'm learning to love life unconditionally. That line stuck with me last week, and you were just talking about loving life unconditionally.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
Good line, Rose. Still like it. Good message, Merri.
It explains a lot about the Course of Miracles. So it really does help.
Yeah, I'm hoping we're going to move the course a little bit, but that's on the side. But the I am is real. When you are at the I am place and not declaring a lot of the negatives, you know, this body of mine is overweight, but I am not. My soul, my spirit, it's free, it's light. The I am is who the soul and the spirit really are. And I was real clear about that yesterday, going to the funeral, because like I said, my ex and I were like fire and oil most of the time. But he hated life, and he was very tortured to live in it, but he had a very beautiful soul, and there were only a few of us who could get to that soul, and I was one of them, who had the pleasure of knowing who he really was versus who he presented to the world. He was a very heavy alcoholic and, very negative about things until he was too drunk. Then he was a laughing, sort of fun person to be around. But he needed that crutch to be there. That said, when all that was peeled away, his spirit was really beautiful. And so I challenge, each of you, as the Quakers would say, to enhance that light, that spirit of God, that flame that's in each of us. For some of us, it's just smoldering under so much of a pile of stuff, you don't even know it's there. But it is still there. And so even people that irritate us are here for the good, for our good as well as the good of society, for us to gauge about their being and help them and ourselves to be better, because we are human beings, not anything after that. The word is being, and that's the place where we can all get to. So I ask you to look at your paths and stay on it, but stay on it not out of desperate climbing, but just out of faith and love and joy and presence. And you'll continue to get where you would like to be, which is be. Not really have to get anywhere. You already are. Just be that. I am.
When you said I am, it reminded me of a YouTube meditation that sometimes I go to, and part of it says, I am loved, I am loved, I am guided. And I found myself, when I'm feeling a little about something, I just breathe and I say those things, and it feels better.
Right.
Yeah, that sometimes I saw that in Facebook.
They say anything you say after the I am is going to come true, or it is true. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
Well,
Discourse.
loved and guided then works,
Loved
because
and
I
guided.
felt, I felt that.
When we say our final prayers here, we say, the light of God and the love of God and all that, take those words in. Really feel what they mean for you. To have the light of God surrounding you and the love of God enfolding you. And the power of God and His protection. You're safe to be who you are. And that presence, that ever presence. And wherever we are, God is. Wherever God is, all is well. Yeah. And so it is. And so it is. Not in the future. Not that we can't have it. Not that there's heaven and hell and God over there and we are sinners. And so it is. Is here now.
The kingdom of God is at hand, or in hand, whatever.
Not for you, John.
I want to say also that when you talk about the news, there's stations or there's outlets on the internet for good news. So there's a lot of them, and you can access them, and they can send you good news every day. And this morning I was sent people saving baby seals, a whole group of them on kayaks, and they were saving the baby seals because they were caught in netting, some kind of
Oh,
fishing
yeah,
netting,
I saw that.
Yeah,
and it was all around their necks. And so these looked like men, mostly young men. They grabbed the little babies, held them, and then cut the netting. And there were so many layers. They were so patient. They had to cut through maybe 8-10 layers of these wires on these poor babies' necks. And then it became loose, and then they went, and they were happy to be free. And then they played in the water where the kayakers were, and they even went on the top of the kayaks with the kayakers. And they were interacting with the people. So it was so beautiful that there's so many things like that if we want to look at it, instead of all the, sensational bad news.
yeah.
And
So that felt good, just seeing that. Wasn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
that'll probably really help
Yeah.
in lifting your spirits.
Yeah, lifting the
And your
spirits.
mood, and that's the place when you are there, you don't want to give that up, and so then you find something else that creates that space. And every time you have a space, you can fill it with positive energy, but in the meantime, the space gives you peace and presence, just to have that space that's not filled with negative energy. So when you were just talking about cutting the layers,
Yeah.
I was thinking of it as, almost as a biblical verse of how, that's what we have to do with ourselves. And then our little world, and then that flows into our bigger world of just cutting through those layers and coming back to who we really are.
And it really helps because whenever I got depressed before, and it's like you start thinking things, it's a downward spiral.
Yep.
But then I listened to that I am stuff, and I started putting something positive after it, and it makes you feel joy and gets you out of that depression,
Mm-hmm.
and it really helps.
Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, which is the next book that's being studied with Dave Peters, not this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday night at 7. The Power of Now is a book that changed my life completely. And I just got out a whole bunch of books from Eckhart Tolle and started reading them. And The New Earth is a real good one. The Stillness Speaks is sort of like a little book that you would carry around with you. But he has a lot of insights that, again, may seem hard to reach until you do it. And then once you do it, you have all those aha moments of, yeah, okay then. So, good authors like that to keep around you, to expose yourself to the way it can be if you just open yourself up and allow it to come in. It will come.
Yeah, right. So once you enter that space of oneness within us and within everything, and you get familiar with it, then you can recognize it, and then you can choose it, then you can seek it and be it. So once you come to that magical, almost like a magical moment of that which we are, which is that holiness, that presence, that wholeness, that innocence, that perfection, that's what we are, and then you can get into it.
Exactly.
More
Just
often.
believe it.
Yeah.
Just believe it.
And you're experiencing it. It's such an experience. And it's really a high. And that's the best high because it's free and it's not illegal, it's not a drug. It's free.
And it came from you, it makes you part.
Yeah, and it's with us wherever you go, so you don't have to pack it away, you don't have to put it in your purse, you don't forget it in your car. It's always with you.
And every
what's-
moment is a new opportunity to incarnate into that which you then believe as your present. And every time the little me starts getting in the way, it starts like I was having some pain this morning, and then I talked to it and gave it some love and acknowledgement that it was there, and I got it, Okay, I'm hurting, I understand why I'm hurting, I get it, you don't have to really hurt anymore, I got the message, okay, it went away. The little me starts to say, I wonder if that's really the thing, I wonder if I can claim that I've got this, that I can do this now, and 10 years from now I won't have blah, 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 and it starts going and going and going, and then I'm like, nah, I only have to be grateful and happy that it happened in this moment. I don't have to prove it, I don't have to do all of that, because that's all in the future. If I can just keep doing this, every time it comes up, I'm gold, and so far I've been doing it for 4 months, successfully.
Well, it's
So,
a silver
you know.
lining. Silver lining.
Yeah.
And there's silver linings in everything, no matter how awful. Sometimes we're just so mired in it and are taught to not look at it, look for it. We're taught to complain. We're taught to, have the drudgery and only good things to come to those who wait. And suffering is a blessing. If you suffer, then you'll get your rewards. Hogwash. Just have that epiphany of each moment and each thing, and then the silver linings get so easy to see because clarity, the gift of clarity that God gives to us, everything in life becomes so clear because it's actually extremely simple. But our ego, our mind, wants it to be very complex. So we think it to death and we challenge it to death. And we do not need to. Even the words to death, we talk a lot about sort of killing the ego. You don't have to kill it. Just have to quiet the bully and let it know who's handling things, and thank it for its service, because it has a purpose, but it just shouldn't totally control your every thought as a knee-jerk reaction. So again, being able to have that clarity to see how life unfolds and just let yourself be part of it, the attitude of gratitude, the peace of presence, and it just continues to flow. And when it stops flowing, you know it immediately and don't want that to happen. And so you go right to the source of the problem because it's clear, you know what it is. You go right to the source and love it into a flow again.
One of the little tools I use to get to acceptance of difficult situations is I tell myself, I'm looking forward to looking back on this. And it
You're
gets me
great at all those lines, too.
It gets me back into appreciation of where I'm at,
And
At
makes
least
you smile,
acceptance,
right?
not appreciation, but at least acceptance of where I'm at, knowing that it's not the end of things. This
Right.
too shall pass.
Yeah, this too shall pass.
Looking forward to looking back on this.
Yeah, this too shall pass is a great line, but I like yours even better because yours
Yeah.
brings a smile to your face and that immediately flips the whole thing. As soon as you can smile or laugh about something, you've already flipped into that present joy. It's just that we normally are like, okay, we smiled for a second and now it's like, focus back on the negative. Like, no, focus on the joy.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Okay, the first song is by Jason Mraz, Living in the Moment.
If this life is one act, why do we lay all these traps? We put them right in our path, and we just wanna be free. I will not waste my days making up all kinds of ways to worry about all the things that will not happen to me. So I just let go of what I know I don't know. and I know I only do this by living in the moment, living my life easy and breezy, peace in my mind, peace in my heart, peace in my soul. Wherever I'm going, I'm already home, living in the moment. I'm letting myself off the hook for things I've done. I let my past go past, and now I'm having more fun. I'm letting go of the thoughts that do not make me strong, and I believe this way can feel the same for everyone. And if I fall asleep, I know you'll be the one who'll always remind me to live in the moment, live my life easy and breezy, peace in my mind, peace in my heart, peace in my soul. Wherever I'm going, I'm already home. I can walk through life, swing backwards. I have tried more than once to just make sure I was denied the future I've been searching for. I spun around and heard no more. I'm living in the moment, living my life easy and breezy, peace in my mind, peace in my heart, peace in my soul. Wherever I'm going, I'm already home. I'm living in the moment, I'm living my life just simply easy. Peace in my mind, got peace in my heart, got peace in my soul. Wherever I'm going, I'm already home. I'm living in the moment, I'm living my life easy and breezy. Peace in my mind, peace in my heart, peace in my soul. Wherever I'm going, I'm already home. Living in the moment.
You wanna have any announcements?
A couple of things.
Okay.
I do. First of all, we, in the summer, I started bringing snacks and things to the children's room. And we were having some issues with the UCC church about it, so I decided to just have our own snacks for the kids. And so I've been doing it for a few months now and would appreciate any help that anyone wanted to do. I figured we'd only have to have 2 volunteers a month, someone to bring some sort of juice, you know, either a big container or the juice boxes, a case of the juice boxes, and someone else to bring a healthy snack like I've been doing carrots, fruit, cheese and crackers, things like that, and then just a sort of munchy snack that the kids might like, either again the assorted bags of chips or cookies or, you know, muffins or things like that. So if anybody would like to help out, I'd appreciate the help. The other thing, even though today is cold and we're not thinking about it, but I'm willing to coordinate a fund to raise money for an air conditioning for this room for next summer. And I was thinking perhaps if the board approves it, it's going to go to the board first, but we could have just like a change bucket. People could throw in whatever they want, and at the end of by springtime, hopefully I'll have enough to help offset my offer to, subsidize the cost of an air conditioner. So you guys can help with that, and I'll fill in anything that's left that's needed.
Oh, thank
I
you.
like that.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary, that's good.
Anyone else?
Well, Liana has probably the speaker line up. I don't know, anybody remember offhand?
Do you remember what's next week? I
I know
wrote
who
it.
next week is. I'll be speaking next week.
Jerry's
Yeah, we
speaking
know
next
that.
week.
Admin.
Admin is the third week, and then
And then
Ridley, I
Ridley
think.
the last week.
Rick the last
Yeah.
week.
That's
And are we having our board meeting today?
Have to ask the board members.
I thought
I
this,
mean,
I thought there's supposed to be a board meeting, that's why I put on the bulletin, it's the
Yeah.
first,
It's scheduled this week.
yeah. I think
first of the
The
month.
Carla
board meeting
said
is
there
the
would
first
be.
week of the month, yeah.
So everybody's welcome, and whoever is present, and we'll just do something as quickly as we can.
And the second week of the month, we do have the snack thing for coffee hour. And one other small announcement. This is the last week we're gonna have Marcia until the springtime again.
Yeah, Marcia, last time we're gonna see you.
Give her blessings.
Blessings to you,
Thank you.
Snowbirds.
to the snowbirds.
Okay, you guys wanna read the new member welcome with me? We open our hearts and doors to new individuals and families. We know that the right and perfect people are joining us at the right and perfect time. Okay, you can greet your neighbors.
Any unity moment, anything that's special that happened that seems synchronistic, or you felt peaceful or inspired by? If anybody has any of those.
Well, I just went over to the Trinity Church, and there's a little garden out in back.
Oh,
And they were blessing dogs or pets.
oh,
So there were like 5 pets that came in and were blessed, and the owners brought them. And it was after a little service outside they had.
Oh, that's nice.
And I saw the Reverend, I never met him. A friend of mine had his funeral there a few months ago. And George Aco.
oh, he had it there? Oh.
Yeah, so I talked to the pastor about the church, and then I walked in and saw the church for the first time.
Cool.
It's a beautiful church.
It
They're
is.
also having like a meal at noon. We have to announce all the food places.
There you go.
In fact, I think we
Free
should move our
food.
service over there. Everyone eat and have service, and then go to a board meeting if you want.
In the garden.
Great
There
day,
you go.
right?
Right, I know if the sun would come out, we could do it outdoors.
Okay,
And
anyone
it-
else?
So,
See, there's the sun.
There's the sun, a flower.
Very nice.
I was just happy the other day to see flowers are still blooming,
Yeah.
Yeah.
despite being October. So when I look,
Despite the frost, too.
there might have been some kind of a frost. And last night we had a special blessing because it was supposed to be 29 degrees and it became 49 degrees.
Really?
20 degrees more. So when I woke up in the middle of the night, I had to turn down the heat and I said, wow, this is so warm. And I looked on my phone, for the temperature, and it said 49 instead of 29.
Wow.
So I felt it was a miracle. So how could they be so off? And, I had desired warmer weather, others desired warmer weather. So maybe we had our wishes come true. So the flowers can still bloom because I had foxglove still blooming and still asters present, in the yard. So the flowers are still there. And I went to a WeGo yesterday for just walking around, hanging out. All beautiful flowers there too.
yeah.
So it felt like, oh, summer might still be here.
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
That being said, yesterday I took a ride in the country and saw all the fall foliage.
There you go. Me
And the
too.
sunshine was pretty bright and warm.
Yeah.
It was like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Decent temperatures, sunshine, and autumn.
Yes, the weather was perfect yesterday, absolutely perfect.
So synchronicity, this morning, I was going to wear a purple outfit, and then I reached in my dresser drawer and came up with this top, and it said, I want to be shown off today. So I put it on, and when I got to church, the first announcement was at the other church, that it's breast cancer awareness
Oh,
month, and you're supposed to wear pink. And I said, so that's why it wanted to be worn.
Oh, good.
yes, yeah.
Thank you for doing that. Yeah, we have one pink person here, I think.
Yeah.
Nobody else. At least something pink.
Oh, you're pretty close.
She's pretty pink.
Oh, which one? Peggy? Something like a red rose color, yeah.
Does lipstick count?
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll take anything.
Okay, we're gonna do the blessing of the prayer requests, if you wanna read it with me. God.
God's all-encompassing love is doing its perfect work in and through us. Wholeness established in every area of our lives. And so it is. Wow, that was the most inconsistent voices I've ever heard. Everybody had their own rhythm. That was wild.
Okay, who would like to do the,
Okay, daily word.
Okay. I am a living expression of God. In her classic book, Lessons in Truth, H. Emily Cady wrote, I am spirit, perfect, holy, harmonious. Spirit can be defined as the invisible life and intelligence underlying all physical things. That means I am much more than my body, my thoughts, and my emotions. I am a living expression of God. As I grow in spiritual understanding, my life reflects my true nature more and more clearly. I know wholeness, even when my body is experiencing illness. I see abundance, even when outer circumstances indicate lack. I embrace possibilities for good, even when my limited awareness cannot yet see the good. I live my human experience as the true spiritual being that I am. So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Genesis 1:27.
okay, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Mary's gonna do the meditation or prayer with you.
Okay, so I'm going to have people move around a little bit, so you'll get warm for about 30 seconds. What I'd like is to have, we're going to be sitting facing each other, so 2 by 2. We're not going to the ark, however. But if people would sit along here, and then others would grab a chair and face somebody, we're going to do a slightly touching meditation, since we taught when I spoke last time.
Come over there, you wanna come over here?
Yeah, this is good, yeah.
So,
Somebody want to sit here?
then we will sit, yeah, just opposite, just sit opposite each other.
We got enough.
Okay, and everybody can turn if you want, just turn chairs, just so you're opposite each other.
We're missing one person.
Okay, one person can do it with me. Who's the odd person?
Carla.
Jerry.
Or Jerry.
Jerry?
I'm about as
Okay.
odd as they come.
All right,
You
Jerry,
want
here,
chair?
I'll
We got Carla over
move
here.
over here. You
And we
move
got
over here.
Carla with Marcia.
Here, we need somebody here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
There
You're
she
back
goes.
there now. Okay.
And then get another chair.
This is where I want to be. I didn't know, thank you.
All right.
I'm about as odd as they come.
That's it. That's it. All right. If everybody will take your left hand and put it on the knee of the person in front of you,
Okay.
and then palm up, and then take your opposite hand and sit it in that person's palm.
Doesn't matter.
Like this?
It doesn't matter.
Like this?
So your hand is on the other person's knee, palm up, and the other person's hand is in yours, so that you're each touching the other person with your hand. So you're holding hands.
Okay.
See how Jerry and I have it? You're holding hands. Okay. So now we'll start the meditation. Everyone can close your eyes. Take a deep breath, expanding your chest. When you inhale, your chest should rise. As you exhale, let it fall. Find your rhythm. Breathe. Find your rhythm. And become aware of your breath. And in that breath, you have spilled with the Spirit of God. Let it fill you. Let that breath come in and feel the peace of your presence. Let everything else go except the feeling of the other person. You can feel their knee with the bottom of your hand. You can feel the warmth of their hand in yours. Let yourself feel the sense of touch, the pressure of a hand in another hand, the feeling of connection to another person. Allow that energy to expand so you feel connected to that person. That person is a reflection of you. Appreciate the silence. Appreciate the peace. Appreciate the one. Allow yourself to be present just in this moment. Observe the temperature. Observe the feeling of skin on skin. Be aware of touch and the meaning of one person to another. Now feel the energy that it can bring. Offer your energy through your hands to your partner. See if you can feel it moving back and forth with differences in pressure and touch. Stay in this moment. Breathe. And now feel the gratitude that we are all here together in this room, celebrating with the one, giving to each other. Amen.
Thank you.
You can't feel anything with you.
I have no feelings.
That was
Actually,
great.
we warmed up each other's
I
hands.
said that.
They were so
No sense
cold.
of feeling.
I know, we were freezing.
Yeah, boy, boy. That was great.
you,
Thank
Merri.
you.
You didn't feel the resistance of the resistance?
Nah, I was only teasing you.
You didn't feel the resistance to the resistance, huh?
Okay.
I'm gonna grab a chair, because I do not want to be standing for this.
I'm gonna do this.
You're gonna play now?
Yeah.
And then you're right in.
It's on your song sheets. This song is called Vibration.
Ooh, nice style.
Oh, that goes good with what we just did.
Mary, you inspired that song because last week when we were walking out, when we were leaving church, I asked what your topic was going to be, and you mentioned raising your vibration. So that kind of inspired this song, this that I just finished. God is flowing through my body, resonating with love.
living in the present moment, allowing Spirit to do what it does.
And now our speaker, Merri.
Back to your sheet, should have this song, Power Now.
Thanks.
And I mentioned the book, and that is
It's always present, nowhere to be. And where you are, the power of now flows oh so gracefully. The power of now is always perfect, nothing to be. Then who you are, the power of now flows oh so easily. Be willing to let go of everything you think you need to know. Oh, be strong enough to let go of everything you think you need to control. For everything goes away. Let everything wash away. The power of God. The power of now is ever flowing, connecting the soul to the world. The power of now unfolds so peacefully. Be willing to